Your pick for the long read, Meltem's Paradigm Shift. Now, of course, Meltem, a well-known figure, one of the women also, on those at those hearings, at the a congressional hearing on the Hill 2 weeks ago. Talk to me a little bit about her. Basically, once again, talking about. I'm looking at it as once again, informing us about the change that is coming upon us, right?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I think this week was one of the rare weeks where, because there wasn't some news cycle dominating thing like the Libra hearings, we saw a lot more of the content this week that was people just kind of thinking big and explaining things. And so I think this was an example of that. So a couple weeks ago, Ray Dalio, the hedge fund manager, released a paper or an article on LinkedIn called Paradigm Shifts. And so that got a lot of people kind of thinking more broadly about the economic paradigm shifts and framing things in that way. And so what Meltem is talking about in particular with this thread is the idea that until Bitcoin, there was a constraint of the digitization of things, was that it usually created new intermediaries, right? So you couldn't create kind of a digital money without there being a new type of intermediary that allowed you to access it. And the one of the powers of Bitcoin was that it really broke that paradigm, right? Because it didn't require a new type of intermediary. And so she's just playing it out. And so what I think that this represents, and the reason that I thought it was worth a nod on this, is that as we're going through a stage right now in these markets where there's a lot of education happening, right? A lot of regulators, a lot of business folks who have kind of had this, in the background, but haven't really had to engage yet, are now at the point where they feel like they have to engage, they have to dive in, they have to understand. And so I think it's important to do this type of communicating and this type of educating, which is a little bit more about just how to help understand really what is different about what's going on. Because if you're thinking about new phenomenon from an old frame reference, you can often get trapped in old ways of thinking. So I think this was kind of